Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at how you can beat the Ultimate Clash Special Edition Part 1 for the 10th anniversary and how you can take on each boss. Now traditionally Ultimate Clash for anniversaries and big celebrations is usually slightly easier than the normal Ultimate Clash. However, it is still very challenging, and if you're a new player that's struggling, don't panic. Wait until the anniversary banners are out. You'll get a ton of really strong units and they'll help you easily complete this. We'll start boss by boss. I'll timestamp each one and show you the build for the team and talk a little bit about their strategy. So this is Super Saiyan Goku. Nothing too extraordinary with him. He's the very first boss. He's actually super easy, so there's not a lot of strategy that's required. Use the free-to-play Team Bardock team or Ginyu Force team, or you can even use the free-to-play Greatest Warrior Saiyan Saga team, the one that the game gives you in the beginning. Any of those three teams are fine. Really, it's more than easy, it's more than okay. You won't really struggle. The next boss that we'll face is the Metal Cooler. Here you can use one of the other teams, whether it's Ginyu Force or the Saiyan Saga team. He's also very simple, with just nullification of ceiling effects and recovering health. Some players may get PTSD from the actual Metal Cooler from the normal Virtual Dokkan Ultimate Clash, but I promise you he's nothing like that. Can't evade, can't do anything, very straightforward. I'm going to be using a way too strong Extreme Strength team. You can use a much milder variant of this team. He really is not that bad at all. The reason I use mono teams is because for me it's the easiest way to work around the boss's singular typing. However, of course, you can build whatever teams you want to. I don't really have an issue, and I always suggest going with what you feel is your strongest iteration of characters and teams that you have. If you want to build 20 category teams, go crazy. So yeah, basically Metal Cooler cleared, nice, easy, and done. Moving on to level 2, we have a choice between the Super Saiyan Trio and the Gohan. The Super Saiyan Trio nullify ceiling effects, disable attack reduction, reduce damage reduction, and seal one of your character's attacks. They're not too difficult. Generally speaking, they're quite manageable. I used a super physical team due to the fact that I could potentially stun them, but realistically it wasn't too difficult to defeat them. Really, it's a mild step up from step 1. Definitely they do a little bit more damage, but for the most part, it was not anything too overwhelming. I wanted to save my Extreme Strength team as it's my stronger category pick for another time. Other than that, pretty straightforward to take them on. There was nothing too ridiculous here. Like I said, they do definitely hit a little bit harder. You can see by the fact that they clip Vegeta for a little bit of damage, or they did when he took a couple normals, but really it wasn't anything too wild. And them sealing one unit is annoying, but it's not something that you can't handle. You should be able to deal with it quite fine. It'll be a unit at random, so don't panic. Try and avoid units that gain attack and defense on super or anything like that, or that gain a huge chunk of attack and defense on super, as that's obviously going to give you some problems. Next, we move on to obviously Future Gohan. So Future Gohan is a strength type character, so obviously we want to bring an AGL team. He's immune to being stunned, super attack ceiling, attack reduction, and damage reduction. I would say don't worry with bringing defense reduction. He's not ridiculously tanky, and outside of being unable to be sealed and stunned, there wasn't anything too crazy that I felt with him. I took a very decent but nothing wild extreme AGL team, using quite a few free-to-play options that we have, although obviously you don't have to use those. But generally speaking, it was just a normal extreme AGL team without anything too thrilling in it. Taking out Gohan was not terribly difficult, and honestly this was pretty much a not that concerning fight. You could have other abilities or things maybe that'll give issues, but honestly it just doesn't seem like there's anything too overlay that you need to worry about. So that was something that was pretty straightforward. Whenever you see a unit that doesn't have the ability to be sealed or attack downed or stunned, generally it indicates a lack of gimmicks for that character in terms of tactical implementation. So they don't generally have like a wild, how can I say, build or anything. So that's Gohan done. That brings us to the boss of stage 2 or level 2. And obviously at this point now, things step up a little bit. Broly has a very interesting second phase mechanic. So Broly will transform. His first phase is nothing crazy. Immune to being stunned, immune to being sealed, immune to attack reduction, immune and reduced damage received. Nothing too wild in his base form. Here I went with an int team. The second phase is where things get quite interesting. When you defeat the first phase of Broly, Broly will transform. He will turn into a Super Saiyan Broly. That Broly can be stunned but not sealed, and that Broly can have his attack lowered, and that Broly does an AoE. The AoE is also pretty tough, especially for newer players. It's, I think, around 400,000 or maybe 450,000. It's nothing that's going to surprise veteran players or anything like that, but it is something that can take you by surprise the first time you do the stage. So the first phase is generally quite straightforward. The second phase, obviously, if you can stun Broly or attack lower him, it's very important. But one thing you do want to keep in mind is that he could potentially AoE super your units. So you want to make sure that you have units that don't start the turn too slowly, and you want to have units that are able to potentially evade or have some kind of decent defensive mechanic for that AoE. Because like I said, it can take you by surprise. All of a sudden you're very low on health. Maybe you want a health recovery unit or something. It's just one of those things. Just be very careful. I mean, you'll see here, we take on Broly, obviously, showing you his second form and everything. You can see here that you can stun him, you can attack lower him, you can defense lower him. And you'll see him launch an AoE super, and he will clip Goku Black for about 300k damage, which is quite a bit. Not like Goku Black, super tanky without doing supers or anything, but it's a decent chunk of damage. So just be careful and mindful of that AoE so that you can build around it. Attack lowering will help you, stunning will help you the most, because stunning will give you the ability to just prevent him attacking at all. Of course, it makes the first phase against him the most difficult, because, or the first turn against him the most difficult, because he'll immediately be from the first transformation, so he won't be able to be stunned. So then we come to level 3, we have Super Saiyan Goku. Immunity to being stunned, nullifies sealing effects, disables attack reduction, and reduces damage received. Goku is very interesting, because how Goku works is he has a countdown ability. So Goku, you will face, and he will count down to a super attack at the end of every turn. And basically, he's quite tanky. So what you want to do against Goku is you're going to want to bring defense down to help reduce his defense. He has quite high defense, and you want to bring decent chunks of damage. Don't worry about bringing anything else. Try and bring the highest level of damage you can, and then you're going to need either evasion or a very tanky unit to potentially handle his super attack if it does launch. Now, if his super attack does launch, you can survive it if you have quite a tanky unit or you evade it or anything like that. It counts down, so you'll literally see it go 5, 4, 3, 2, and you'll know when it's about to come. It's always at the end of the turn, so you should make sure that you're prepared by having a strong tanky unit to potentially take on that attack. It's very, very crucial. Other than that, everything's fine. Just bring a bit of damage. Make sure you get through Goku. I got through him before he even fired his attack. My team was quite strong though. So keep that in mind if you are taking him on. Next we have Gohan. Immunity to being stunned. Nullification of attack and defense reduction. Reduces damage received, and he performs critical hits when performing a super. The key to taking out Gohan is going to be sealing. Sealing, 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 sealing. You want to keep him from firing his super attack. It's not ridiculously damaging, but it's going to nullify things like guard. It's going to do increased damage. It's going to mean that you either need to evade it or have just a super tanky unit. It's just not something you want to deal with. So your key to this is to have evasion and sealing. A combination of both of those factors is going to be very helpful in kind of getting rid of Gohan, basically. For me, I found that bringing Margarita was a great sealer. Having a sealer, very crucial, very clutch. And then, of course, as well, having an evasive unit. So like SS3 Goku, He was brought good damage, but more as evasion, you can see there. The evasion, evading the super attack, allowing us to set up the seals, and then we handled everything from there. Next we have Trunks, who is immune to stunning, immune to sealing, disables defense reduction, reduces damage received, and lowers your ki by -3. This is obviously quite an annoying mechanism, but Trunks also can hit relatively hard. The main strategy against Trunks is to bring attack lowering, quite a bit of attack lowering. The game will give you 1 turn to set up your attack lowering against Trunks, and to make your life a lot easier, you're going to want to pretty much have almost every unit attack lower to some degree. I would say bring at least 3 or 4 units that can reliably lower attack, whether that's greatly lowering attack, and make sure that they get off their lowering attack every turn. Trunks will start out with only attacking, or he won't attack in the first turn, and then he will slowly start to attack more. As he attacks more, you will obviously take more and more damage. He supers quite a bit as well, multiple supers. So bringing attack lowering and keeping his attack low reduces the amount of damage he can output later on. Of course, you do still need damage, so bringing units like Super Vegeta, SS4 Vegeta that I'm using these units is going to be very helpful, because you do need damage still. So try and do a combination of attack lowering and high damage units. That generally should get you through quite well. Obviously, evasion, tankier units always ideal, but as long as you can keep lowering his attack and you can do damage to him, you'll come out the winner, because you can basically lower his attack to the point where he does almost no damage if you have enough. So it's not impossible to handle him. I will say they do very nicely give you a little bit of ramp up, because Trunks doesn't attack a lot in the beginning, and then slowly attacks more and more. So you do have time to set up your attack lowering, which I think is really good. But he does raise his attack and defense on the super, so be careful. You don't want to go too long in this fight. You could end up losing. It's not something ideal. And then we come to the final boss. We come to old Jiren. So Jiren is granting immunity to being stunned, immunity to sealing effects, disables attack and defense reduction, and reduces damage received. The first phase of Jiren, much like Broly, so if Jiren's going to transform, the first phase of Jiren is not too bad. He can super you, he can cause you some issues, but generally speaking, he's not impossible to deal with. The second phase, he all of a sudden has the ability to be stunned, and he has the ability to be attack lowered, and he has the ability to be hit with status effects. And the reason with this is because he hits much harder. So the moment he turns into full power Jiren, things become a lot more difficult for you. So prepare yourself for full power Jiren, not for base Jiren. Base Jiren can be handled by just a relatively okay, decent defensive team and attacking team. I brought a lot of nice tools for the second phase. So I made sure to bring attack lowering, I made sure to bring sealing, I made sure to bring some form of stunning. Obviously we've got the Ghost Usher ability from the androids. All these things are very crucial, because you can stun Jiren, you can delay Jiren, you can lower his attack and defense. You can do everything but seal him. So this is going to be mechanisms that's going to help you to just keep him in check. He's not impossible. It's not like he's OP. I don't want to say like, oh wow, full power Jiren's going to wreck your mind. But just if you build your team thinking about the second phase, not just not bringing stuff because, oh, I can't attack lower first phase Jiren, or I can't, stun first phase Jiren, or anything like that. I think you'll be more than fine. I think you'll have a good time. So yeah, that's it. Basically, we take out Jiren and we are done. So obviously I went with Extreme Tech here. I felt like Extreme Tech was just a good, strong team. We have some really cool tanky options like Fusion's Masu, who I really like, and who will more than likely be on the banner. So again, just giving hopeful players that someone on the banner options there. Other than that, most of the units weren't too inaccessible. I'd say a lot of them were nice units, but that can be interchanged with anyone else. You could just use a standard Universal Survival Saga or Reps of Universe 7 team here, and you'll probably be more than fine. Right now, I'm just going to show you all the teams again, just for players who maybe didn't see the teams or want another last little look, or just don't want to hear the rest of the explanation. You can obviously just skip to the each team here and take a look. Generally speaking, obviously, I would say overall, most of my teams were a little bit overpowered. I would say a lot of them could have been reduced in strength, just in general. I think a lot of them were too powerful in the sense of like, you could definitely reduce scope on some of these units, maybe take non-easy aid versions, or units that aren't easy aid or things like that. And I think most times you will find that that team will work really well. I think, like, for me, yeah, that's probably better to dumb these teams down a little bit. You don't have to bring exactly this, so I think it should be fine. With that being said, of course, yeah, I think if you're struggling, just wait until the new summon banners come out. It's not going to be too long. They'll come out still while this event's up, and you'll definitely get new units. So all 3 of the new units, there'll be other units. So yeah,